a bit about what you do and how do you come to write the Elite Dangerous novel?
Hi, my name is Micheal Brookes. I'm executive producer here at Frontier Developments. So many of you already know me from the Kickstarter, which I was helping out with David. How I came to write the novel was a bit of luck. I wrote a novel a couple of years ago called The Cult of Me, and David read it and liked it. So when the opportunity came up, he asked if I'd be interested in doing it, and of course I jumped at the chance.
So here we have a few questions for you. What first inspired you to write?
So I started writing when I was a young boy, with short stories and songs and all that kind of stuff. And then it was only probably a couple of years ago that I thought, well, let's have a go at a novel. So I wrote the first draft and a few people read it and said actually it was pretty good, so it kind of rolled on from there really. Cool.
What books most influence your writing style?
So probably not so much the style, but Paradise Lost by John Milton is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest stories ever told. And in fact the trilogy that I'm writing with The Cult of Me is very much based on the story in Paradise Lost.
Could you tell us what books are you reading now?
At the moment I'm reading a book called The Devil Stood Up. It's a very dark horror story, and I have to say I'm quite surprised by how horrifying it is, which is unusual coming from a horror writer.
So how did you come up with the idea for The Cult of Me?
So as I say, Paradise Lost is my favourite story ever written, but it sort of raises some interesting questions when you're reading it. So for example, God doesn't seem to be portrayed in a very good light, which probably wasn't John Milton's intention, but it just sort of raises questions, and yeah, it's an attempt to answer some of those questions.
Is there anything you find particularly challenging while writing?
Editing is probably the biggest challenge I have, making sure that I'm not overusing the same word, or that I've used the correct sentence construction. I love sort of writing the first draft, that's nice, just getting the ideas onto paper, but then cleaning those ideas up is work, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any advice you would like to give to new writers?
I think the most important thing is just to keep trying, keep writing. One of the great things about writing is the fact that you're constantly getting better. There's always something new to learn, some way of improving your craft. So yeah, just keep at it.
Are there any writing stylistic tips you would like to share?
I'm a great believer in Stephen King's rules. So reduce the use of adverbs. Once you've written the first draft, go through it with a large knife and cut out all the fat. But yeah, just keep refining the work, keep reading it, read other people's work and see how they do things well or do things badly, and just learn the tips from there.
What is your goal for Elite Dangerous book?
To write an interesting story, obviously set in the Elite universe, but I'd also like to do something that's, while it has the spirit of Elite, also brings a new angle to it. Unfortunately I can't go into that in any great detail at the moment, but yes.
And do you see the characters as the most important aspect of the book, or the plot?
For me, story is king. Once you have the story, I mean the plot helps a good story, but the story is the most important thing, and when the characters will tend to evolve themselves as you progress.
What makes you so passionate about Elite Universe then?
Well, Elite was the game that got me into gaming. So when I was 13, 14, it came out, I started playing it, and it was then that I realised what computer games could be. And here I am now working on the new one, which is great.
Congratulations! Have you always had a passion for fantasy and science fiction?
I have, yes. I think one of the fun things about reading is it just transports you to new worlds. And again, that's where sort of Elite came into it, is that it transported me to a world that's just not possible right now, or may never be possible, but it doesn't matter.
What is your writing process like? Do you sit down and write non-stop for hours, or do you prefer to write in small chunks?
It depends on how much time I've got. At the weekend I'll spend most of the day writing. During the week it's just a couple of hours when I get home after work. But yes, you've got to maintain a routine, you've got to keep writing.
Do you ever suffer from writer's block?
Not so much. I'm a great believer in planning a story out in advance, so if I do get stuck I'll just skip to the next bit and then fill in the gap later.
Cool, I guess that's Very gifted then.
Okay.
Thank you for your time then.